conversation. I'm so ready for new mistakes. No, I've been looking for love instead, just someone I appreciate, and everything crossed my way. I love that I don't know your name. Oh no, I never meant to misbehave. Something about you makes me crave. You really are a different taste. I love that I don't know your name. I know you have questions, I don't have answers. Clearly no manners, baby. I know you want it better, putting on the pressure. 'Cause pressure's gonna get the very best of me. I give a little something, doesn't come for free. Oh, I know you have questions, baby. Even if I try and try too hard, nothing's ever enough. Even if I try and try too hard, tell me what to do, say anything, yeah. Dive deeper, yeah. Dive deeper, dive with me, yeah. I know.
Rag is there!
Oh, that is absolute dynamite. And boom, it goes.
And boom! The layout goes! Sluster and the Kran are on the move. To the Kran!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to London Invite 2025. We are into arguably the main event this weekend, the mixed division with 5 of the World Games teams in attendance, alongside 2 U24s and the Tokay SuperTeam. We got a match up between 2 of those World Games sides. The Crocs, the Australians, up against France. Oh boy, am I excited. I'm Benjamin Rees, alongside Rachel Douglas. Doug, I know you're just about as excited for this as I am.
Yeah, absolutely buzzing. We had some of the, like a sort of a teaser for some of these big games yesterday with some friendlies in a sort of warm-up day, warm-up for us as the commentary team and the tech team here at ULTI.TV, and warm-up for these squads who are preparing to head off to the World Games in August. So we've had a little bit of a teaser for how some of these might go, but you know, that was just testing out the legs, shaking off the jet lag for a lot of these guys, and today is the tournament proper. And the kind of competition and the competitive spirit in each of these players means, you know, even if their coaches tell them not to go too hard, not to injure themselves, we know we're going to see some big plays, 100%. Some big games.
You want to get that little mental edge and advantage potentially, if you can. Yes, we hope you enjoyed Free Frisbee Friday yesterday. If you're watching this stream, you might already have joined us for more London Invite access, but this is our free game of the round. So if you hadn't, it's lovely to have you on board. But if you want your choice of games, we also have a couple of others going on at the moment. You can see the USA World Games side. They're taking on Germany. Super Team versus Canada U24 as well in this round, as of course Australia, France here. And in order to do that, you need to click the join button, or if you don't see that, there's 3 little dots in the top corner of your screen, and then you want the option for more London Invite access, which gets you 45 live streamed games this weekend. No, we didn't misspeak. Yes, it's a lot of Frisbee.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of unprecedented. Obviously, this is the 4th iteration of London Invite, and this time ULTI.TV are streaming across 3 of the 4 fields. It's phenomenal, the level of coverage, and you can watch all of it. And these are world-class teams. Can't wait for this to continue.
Yeah, and these 2 sides are in the same pool as each other at the World Games as well. We didn't plan it that way. Actually, London Invite drew the pools first, and that's just how it seemed to work out. Oh, a really big whip of wind now gusting away from the camera as we're looking at it. So France receiving will have to hold firm to begin. Chloé Vallée going back to Rollet. Leo Stanguanek lays it off deep, trying to stretch it. and Sasha Płatzakolski tried to box out Rob Andrews, the big man, and in doing so got himself too far underneath the disc, but the swing from Australia straight into the turf, and the quick pickup delivered from Benvenien to Sasha Płatzakolski, and France with a hold, not a clean hold, but a hold nonetheless to start the game.
Yeah, Australia will be disappointed getting the turn and then not being able to do, complete a single pass off of it is obviously not what they're looking for today, but at least they got a turn. That wasn't a clean hold for France, and as they're sort of feeling each other out and getting each other's vibe, trying to understand how each team's going to look to approach this game, really great to make sure that you're sort of getting in their heads and disrupting their offense, at least at the start. Hopefully later on they'll be able to do a little bit more with that.
Yeah, got to play the conditions a little bit here because the wind is not constant. It is gusty, and you have to try and adjust for that. Every individual throw, just take the extra split second to make sure that you've measured it properly.
Absolutely. We've seen across the morning, it was very still when we first got here, and it picked up in the first game. And it shouldn't be too much trouble for this kind of class of player that we have on the field across these two squads.
I think it's one of those that if you're not prepared, it can catch you.
That's it. It's the focus.
Slightly unsighted.
It's the focus. It's that you can't just throw without thinking. You need to make sure that you've adjusted. Otherwise, you will be caught foul. So adjustments need to be made, and that takes quite a lot of mental energy that these teams need to make sure they have available.
Ava Bourneau with the pull. Kaya Weir will pick it up first. Australian O-line possession, swings to McGuckin. Weir again working in the backfield with McGuckin. Was very impressed with those two in their little friendlies yesterday against Germany. There's the deep shot. Clara Matias was all over it.
Yeah, Matias, it looked like they were sort of out of position for their general defense, but when that throw went up, actually ended up being perfectly located to make the play and get there long before the offense had an opportunity.
Yeah, plays a club ultimate with Yaka, who had a somewhat surprising heavy loss to Smog this morning. I think feeling the loss of those World Games players, Mathias, Valet, Olivier, Lucas Lefebvre, all playing with France World Games, or as an alternate. And France, just like Australia, unable to complete a pass with the disc after the turn, and Australia capitalised by punching it into Mark Wee.
Yeah, we should maybe kind of make clear to the viewers at home that the gusts are kind of coming from this top left-hand corner of the field. So looking at the angle of the camera right now, they're looking almost directly into the wind. So it does mean that everything's getting pushed into that corner. So it's not really a surprise that that's where we're going to have seen most of the action so far. But for the side that's trying to go the other way, that focus that we already spoke about is just going to be critical. As we said, we've seen the turnovers coming, but then immediately returned to the offensive side so that they can put in the hold, whereas actually someone's going to have to break free and come and score up here if they want to get ahead.
No side really wants to play in the wind, but obviously come the World Games, you've got to play whatever the weather is, assuming of course that we don't have thunderstorms that got things off script in the last World Games in Birmingham 3 years ago. Sorry, Birmingham. Yeah, I know, it feels weird saying that. But otherwise, you've got to go out there, whatever the weather, wind, rain, snow. Although somehow I doubt it'll be snowing in China in the summer, but you never know. Cat Phillips pulls. Rollet to pick up. Wants to take the break on to Lucas Lefebvre. Still count rising. Finding it short to Ancelin, now Stanguenec bouncing to Lucas Lefebvre. Lachi. Into the centre. Not going to connect. Keys to McClay. And now Phillips back to John O'Keys. Wearing those socks with the Aboriginal flag on. Nice touch. Lee now trying to get it off the sideline. Phillips in the short space. Taking on the break around. Finds the break around as well. Here's Patterson. Australia doing a good job of stretching France laterally and then down the sideline. Just about able to keep that in bounds, and that's a break, the first of the game going the Crocs' way.
Oh yeah, that'll do nicely. Australia side looking really confident there. The French defense was really trying to harry them, put a lot of pressure on, particularly in that reset. You know, if you don't see the reset on their first cut, then France really has them covered and you're out of position, and that's all a bit challenging. But Australia not feeling hurried, not feeling rushed, waiting, finding the right options. I think Kat Phillips came through the middle, gave a good option that they managed to get that out, and then we can see there the continuation, just keeping things nice and calm, taking the time, I think, to adjust for the conditions, not being too stressed, and that flow across the field, changing that angle of play, moving nicely and quickly across the field to a striking player is just absolute perfection.
Yeah, just stretching them laterally, making them cover not just the depth, but the width of the field as well. See some of the French support staff there on the sideline. Everyone, of course, gearing up for the main event, the World Games in Chengdu. 4 years' time, 2029, it's in Germany.
Yeah, beautiful. All these teams, sort of speaking to the Australian team ahead of the games yesterday, they were saying that they've come into this tournament with the kind of the ethos of this being just an opportunity. So rare for them to get to play against great competition ahead of, you know, the main event, and so they're really just cherishing the opportunity they have to be here and to play against the other world-class teams.
Pazzo down the line. Oh, it sneaks through the hands of Lison Bourneau, and she gasps like she couldn't believe what she'd done. Australia then can open up an early lead here. Egan Griffiths. As there's a pick downfield. Australia just have to go back somewhat. James Bray will have it in hand. Ben Venyen just discussing the stall count, getting ready to check in. Egan Griffiths trying to chink her way free of Swan Lacoste Lefebvre, and does. Andrews now, just outside the end zone. Can he find the force in as the stall begins to tick up? Unsalan doing his very best on the mark, but getting free in a phone booth at that front cone is James Bray. Another Australia break.
Teams having to work in quite small spaces there. This wind, I think, is making everyone just like a little bit concerned about taking on those longer passes, and so we're seeing lots of the little pops, the small movement, but it means that does enable play to collapse into quite a small space. You can see so many bodies, but ultimately just able to just finally jink free and secure that point for Australia.
Yeah, and France, they can see that, yeah, they've not started the game in the manner that they would have liked, so they're going to opt to choose a timeout here. And to be honest, I think I get it. The games aren't particularly long. You can't take them with you, so now is as good a time as any just to take a breather, get that mental reset going, and yeah, gear up for the game and the tournament ahead. 3-1 then, USA leading, USA, I've done that again. Australia, I can definitely read 3 letters in a row. Australia up on France here at London Invite 2025.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're Frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
The Crocs, the Aussie World Games side, up 3-1 on France here at the London Invite. This is our free live stream game this round. A pleasure to have you along on ULTI.TV, and I know that many of you have done this already, but if you want to make sure that you can watch every game we're live streaming here this weekend, 45 in total, including the 2 other streams going on this round of Super Team versus Canada U24 and USA versus Germany, then the way to do that is by becoming a YouTube channel member, click the join button, and then more London invite access for the equivalent of €10 a month in your local currency. It's 15 Australian dollaries, for example. Then, yeah, you can watch every game here at London Invite live and back on demand as well. But if I were you, I'd do a little bit of triple box action, but make sure you keep our commentary on. Good stuff. Benji Reese and Rachel Douglas in the booth. France giving up a couple of breaks. And looking to try and stop that momentum now. Ansalam goes back into the backfield for Valet. And now Ansalan again. It's quite a young French side, but Ansalan is kind of that offensive anchor. Lovely shot to the end zone there from Lisson Bonneau. Just uses the roll curve to lead it perfectly in stride for Chloé Valet.
Yeah, great. Looking unflustered by the Australian defense there. Finding the space, taking their time.
That's exactly what you hope for, really, when you call the timeout. Take a breather, and then you come down. And a couple of times they got into higher score counts, but they weren't phased. Continually able to find those free players, and that is a lovely space shot towards that far sideline there from Bonneau.
Absolutely. It does feel sort of when you watch these World Games level teams that in sort of a regular game in a sort of regular part of the season, you often can see more clearly the handlers and the cutters on the lines. And obviously people have their different positions that they play, but I would just say every single person on that field is a thrower, regardless of their position, and they're not afraid to really kind of maximize whoever's got the disc. They're looking long, they're looking short. You know, it's not like you have those specific people who are going to look deep and then the team can kind of adjust their defense against that. It really feels like every single person is a threat. They've trained this, they know how to cut for each other, and it makes that really interesting dynamic play that you don't know what's going to come. Anything can happen.
I mean, if you're going to make a World Games team, you have to be able to be good offensively, both as a thrower and as a receiver. You have to be good defensively, and the fact that, you know, the World Games rosters themselves, they're playing with the alternates this week as well, but by the time you get to World Games, you'll only have 14 players. It means you're going to be asked to perform a variety of roles. McGuckin did not lay that one far out in front, and initially I'm not sure how much of it Robley actually saw. He was just trying to guard that space a little bit, but he turned around and the disc was thrown right into his arm.
Yeah, that was almost like, you know, foretelling, clairvoyance. He knew it was coming and prepared.
Matthias running the 1-2 with Enzo Forget, but he leads it too far in front. Thought the bid might come in, but not on that occasion. Phillips to pick up, and now on the far sideline, Gann. Australia again, this commitment to using the width, going back and forth, making those defenders constantly orbit downfield. McGuckin trying to marshal the offense after the turn. The layout comes in, the first one wasn't there, but the second one delivered. Superb awareness from Mark McClay to provide the backup. He is Johnny on the spot as the Australians get the job done.
Yeah, whole team effort. If at first you don't succeed, send someone else in. Great backup. A nice sort of flowing play there. It did look like the France defense was putting a lot of pressure on, but able to find the space. Yeah, great effort, and then a huge last-minute save.
If you watched Free Frisbee Friday yesterday, hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of bonus friendly coverage for you. But France played the USA in the first round of those little friendlies, and they generated a lot of break opportunities, but were not particularly clinical with them, which came back to hurt them in the end. And I think so far that, I mean, look, plenty of game left, but they've had the disc a couple of times and not been able to do anything with it.
This weekend
something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this weekend really will be, you know, a learning point for them. These teams have been training and drilling together, but have had very few, if any, opportunities to kind of play against good competition.
Correct.
As a squad. So yeah, this is, you know, we've all been discussing and speculating on how much each team's going to reveal of their playbook and of their strategies at this tournament. But I think this is where they come to test things, and great to have something up your sleeve. But if it's not ready to be played, then how useful is it? So I think we're actually going to see like some real variation from each team, some depth of their playbooks as they test things out, and I'm certain there'll be lots of changes before the tournament rolls around, but they're really looking to learn where their weaknesses lie so they have the time to adjust them as they prep in the lead up to the tournament.
Nothing like the fire of competition to really sharpen the iron and bend and smelt it into shape. At the moment, France swinging around the back against this containing Australian defence. Just sagging off. There was Andrews. Clearly trying to force Pazzo in the handler space. Valet now with a defender on the back shoulder. Oh, the disc went, and an athletic tip. Well read and well adjusted. Looks like Foreman who got the block.
Yeah, Australia starting out in a zone, I think, for that point for 5, just to stymie the flow.
And now Studing Jeep striking off the turn. Pigeon is a favoured receiving target for them. Absolutely tore up a storm at World Under-24s a couple of years ago for that Australian women's side, but this time no such luck for the former Firetail.
Nice look, like the kind of expansive, quick off the turn, expansive look, but just not able to line it up. There was the space, but I guess maybe the adjustment for the wind. We can see here you had to put quite a lot on that throw, and the separation was there, whole field, whole end zone to play with, but the timing just wasn't it.
I think when you've got the shorter rosters, if you can, smuggle those quick breaks where the opposing side is napping, it can be so important. That's a really tough read, stuck well there by Leo Stanguinek, reigning European Breakout of the Player of the Year in the open division, and Pazzo feeds it back to Stanguinek for the French hold.
Yeah, the adjustment on that read was so critical. It was a great deep look, but then really just started to blade so aggressively. Well positioned to make that adjustment though.
Yeah, superb work from Stanguinek. And then just, you can see that little bit of a buffer there. The force isn't on the same page as the downfield defender. And Stanguinek, make sure that he goes to ground just to get everything he can underneath it. The mustachioed Stanguinek, whose younger brother Enzo is one to keep an eye on as well, as we certainly saw at WJUC last summer in Birmingham. Actually Birmingham this time, not Birmingham.
Yeah, lots of talent coming up through the French program.
It's very enviable. And thinking about U24s in 2023, there were a lot of eyebrows raised across the continent when France chose not to enter any teams, saying no, we're prioritising EUC, and the fact that the open and women's sides got to the got deep in the tournament, didn't come away with the medal, but France got that gold. Maybe it's testament to their plan. And then of course gold in the women's division at U20 last year, superb achievement. Silver as well in the open division, and then mixed getting into the quarterfinals as well. French youth ultimate is in a very strong place right now as the pool bounces inbounds, thuds, and takes a spin out of that far sideline. And it is really whipping up again now, and Phillips with the flub on the end zone line. Ava Bruno picks up quickly. There's a player wide open. He's got plenty of time to watch it. Into the bucket does Sullivan Roblet. And France do get their first break of the game to bring us on serve at 4s.
Yeah, that's tough. The wind just started rifling through right as they picked that up on the sideline. It's directly in their faces. Phillips, who's one of the most phenomenal athletes out of the Australian program, arguably, in the World Games program more generally. Not one to usually not secure a throw to the chest, but the wind, the bobble, everything going on.
And as soon as that was out of her grasp, Ava Bruno was like, okay, this is the time, this is the opportunity, gets it out, and yes, she pops this up, but there's no one anywhere near Roblet, so he can watch it right the way into the hands.
Yeah, and I mean, that throw was also directly into the wind. It wasn't sort of the neatest throw. If there had been a defender in the area, that was something that could have been very contested.
But also, I guess if there's a defender in the area, then probably you holster that a bit.
Well, that's the thing. But I guess the learning point there is even when the error happens, like, you've just got to make sure that you're like glue on your person, because they're going to look to exploit it, and it's your job to try and minimize the impact of that or disrupt as much as possible.
Yeah, more and more now, sides across the world are so switched on for the quick pickup. There was a time when, okay, turnover, let's go slow, everyone run through, we'll get a handler, come forward and pick it up. But actually, if you've got that numerical advantage, why not use it? Elliot Bonnet with the big pull. The Australia field, and now Phillips. They're trying to attack this at pace, the Australians. They've reached midfield with Wee. Wee goes short to Lado Matos. Now Lado surveys his options, just going to toss that one into the teeth of this defense to Gan. Can they find a way to get it off this near sideline? Elevator rises and sits to Lado Matos as it whips up again. Phillips, travel called, gets herself back in position and we're underway. Lado Matos trying to squeeze it through to McGuckin. Big, muscly frame. Now Weir, nice toe on the sideline, good awareness from Gan, and Gan and Weir trying to play the jailbreak as much as they can. Just slowly but surely slicing and dicing their way down the field. It was surgical death by 1,000 cuts, and they scythed it into the end zone for the score.
That felt clinical and that felt drilled. That felt like a team that understand how to play together. You know, that was an adjustment for the wind, looking for those small passes, not holding onto the disc for too long, but also not being afraid to wait for the right option.
I think the use of tempo was superb at the start. You know, we'll play it quickly, not let the defense get set. And when France, they could get the duel set. Okay, that's fine. We don't need to rush. We'll get the elevator over the top, wait till players are in position, and then, okay, back on the accelerator, playing with pace, but not haste.
Exactly. Alexander Gan, part of that quick movement, and then electing to hold on to it and make sure, which is just so critical, particularly as you enter that red zone. You often get just tunnel vision for the score. Eyes spinning, but being able to just take that moment, take that beat, put the fake in, move your mark around, make sure that you're really hitting someone that's both safe and creating new opportunities.
So on serve in this one, Australia with an early break that France have earned back. 70-minute games here, a London invite. Cap rules, when the HoMForce goes at 70 minutes, you finish the point, and if the scores are tied or within one, then you play to a normal score cap, and if they are not, then you finish the point and the game just ends, which can sometimes be a little bit unsatisfying, but it does mean that you need to keep games close all the way through. You cannot afford to let a team escape into the distance, because they can just close you out. Stanguinek with Onsalan, just trying to play the puppet master in the backfield. All the drop comes from Valet. Good red zone opportunity. Keys picks up, shows the scuba, but back into the pocket. The gloved figure of Prentice now. Looking, oh, I thought that could go towards the far side. Now, Lisson Bonneau sitting in that space. Can they pass off a switch? Just shy of the end zone, Patterson. France recovering to get back into position again. Australia not rushing things. They're just going to work it around the back until someone unveils themselves. Stretching it wide on the swing. The little pop over the top into the end zone finds Jonathan Keys for the score. Australia earned that one break advantage back.
Beautiful play on O and D from Australia. That felt like a really sort of quintessential point.
This might come back on a pick.
There is some discussion. Okay, can't wax lyrical about how great that was yet. They're going to need to do it again.
And we are back in play. Australia will continue this dump swing fundamental offense. Attacking the cone on the far side is Carr. Stillcam got to be rising now. Are they able to just about get through the double coverage? They found Prentice, but a foul is called by Chloe Valet, who was left strewn on the floor.
Yeah, Prentice had to sort of leap over Valet to secure that catch. Not sure where the contact was.
Yeah, you can't quite see it from that angle. But Australia, you need to keep calm, keep your temperament.
Yeah.
Calls are obviously, trust they're being made in good faith, but you know, it can get frustrating, regardless of how valid the calls are, but just you feel like you could have scored a couple of times and for whatever reason it's come back. doesn't matter, just play on.
Yeah, so that's going to be a contested foul from the hand signals. Looks like it's been fairly well resolved on field. And third time is a charm. That one nicely and convincingly put in. No opportunity for calls or discussions. So just to reiterate, that did feel like a quintessentially Australian point. The defense that they played, you know, starting out in this sort of zone, I really love. I feel like across the board, Australian teams are really creative in how they approach zone defense, often kind of trying out different things, figuring out where, not just, you know, in a mixed context being like, you know, male matching players over here, female matching players over here, but really thinking about the strengths of each of those individuals and where they can do the most damage, and creating really interesting solutions. You can see there one of the contested scores, but third time's a charm.
Yeah, just a little
one in.
Leading dish into the end zone in the end. It's interesting because if you think about Australia at the last World Games, you know, a lot of what I think about their offense there was, you know, you got Cupcake, Tom Tullett catching the ball, you know, watching it all the way into those the Bunnings gardening gloves, taking a breath, and often acting as that kind of turret handler at the back, just firing deep shots to the big men like McGuckin and especially Rob Andrews, who was the leading goal scorer at the tournament. But this, it feels like there's more of a concerted effort to play a bit more of the short game. They're not just relying on putting it up to their skyscrapers.
Well, I feel like people, you know, once you've seen what people can do,
you're aware of it.
You want to make sure you have a second look. And not having Cupcake on the team this year, I believe he's retired from the game.
Yes, he is quote unquote retired.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Oftentimes those things don't
I was
quite
going to say,
stick.
I know a lot of players who have retired who are still playing.
Yeah, but you've got players like Alexander Gann who really sort of stepping into that central handling role.
Yeah, Gann.
Bringing new dynamics.
Yeah, McGuckin's doing a lot of work in the backfield. Ladamatos as well, often acting as those, pivots in the centre. Deep shot. Phillips up against Lisson Bourneau, and Phillips climbs the ladder. We know all about her athleticism, of course. Former pro Aussie rules player. And yeah, you have to be in reasonable shape for that.
Yeah, and just took the position. Has the field intelligence, has the experience to understand how to make that play and make it cleanly.
Has that size matchup as well, so you know, can afford to go up a bit earlier than Bourneau can. There's a deep shot coming again. Andrews and Phillips in the area. Who's going to get it? Bonnet looks like he's got the read, an easy gas and elevation from Elliot Bonnet. Looks like he might stretch the field the other way this time. No, going short to Ben Venyen. He's going to bang it. Looking for Leo Stanguenek, and Leo Stanguenek skies superbly for the score.
Yeah, lots of yellow shirts streaking in, but the job can't be done. France really are monsters in the air, either end of the field.
Yeah, what doesn't matter, O or D, which end zone, with the wind, against the wind, grass, sand. Yeah, they know how to get up and get up big. Stanguenek with a good read on this all the way. Goes up nice and early. Two Australian defenders just left chasing shadows in the end. Kylo and Kaya both caught underneath it.
I don't have the stats available, so this is going to be off the cuff and might not stand up to scrutiny, but it has felt like France have been more dominant in their long game so far in this game. Australia taking some looks, but often maybe the decision making isn't quite there. It didn't feel like that long put that caused a turnover there was quite necessary, and the execution certainly wasn't there for a sort of a throw that's basically directly into the wind, definitely upwind, almost facing directly into it. So I'm sure that's something they want to keep in. We talked about making sure they have that dynamism, whether that's small game and making sure they're still threatening deeps and people are taking those threats seriously, but there definitely needs to be some adjustment, whether it's the conditions or just dialing in the focus of the execution, because at the moment that feels like that's slightly more France's area to hold.
Obviously, if you're Australia, you have Cat Phillips and Rob Andrews going deep. You can't blame them for putting it necessarily, but it was excellently defended by Bonnet. Ladamarsos, that one gets a bit more rise than they were expecting. France with a chance to earn this break back at the earliest opportunity. Roble sending this one out in front. Elevator off that far sideline, there was nobody there.
Total miscommunication on the dump.
Not sure what Fenriche was looking at. Now, can they continue to flow down this sideline. No, have to redirect through the centre. And instead, McGuckin to Gan. So good in those short spaces. Carr. Gan really struggling to get free. Can they lead it out into space? Oh, that is a crafty, crafty throw from Olivia Carr, and weaseling his way free for the goal is Gan.
I adore that look from Olivia Carr. The vision and the kind of creativity, really, really beautiful. Knowing how when you're in a bit of a tight spot, it's going to be a real challenge, and rather than trying to eke something out, just throwing a creative and perfectly executed floating throw into space with the right angle on it for a play to be made.
Yeah, and it would be so easy to kind of say, okay, we're just going to let it hang there so you can get there. But of course, if you let that hang too much, and you even saw it actually, defenders coming in from the stack to try and get into the space, but it's superbly weighted. To lead far enough in front, the Hroblade couldn't get there, but without so much hang that it couldn't be picked off.
Yeah, and good. I mean, it's good discipline from the stack, not getting involved. Carr obviously only had eyes for her dump, and trusted them to get free.
Like, put a lot of onus on Gan to get free there, but you know, with the stall count, okay, I've activated you now, and I back you. You've got 5-6 seconds to clown around. Yeah. You're going to get free, and if you're not going to get free, I'm just going to throw you open anyway.
And it was a furious defense from France. That really felt like a pivotal moment. France hoping to get that break back, but passing it back over to Australia. And then, you know, the fury with which the French defense defended, trying to stem that flow. Australia rising to the challenge though, and as we said, like that total mark out of the dump space, that really kind of excellent defense, but when you have such creative throwers who can execute, very little that can be done.
And they played good defense after the turn as well, because you know that was another break opportunity for France. They've had 4 and taken just the 1. Ansalan working short with Lucas Lefebvre. It was such a key part of that France U20 women's win last year. Dalal with Ansalan again, key in this handling core. Now Valet going back to Benvenien. Of course, nice to have a lefty at the back of your offense to help change those angles of attack. Lachi to Ansalan. He's very happy going every other when he needs to. Little elevator pop there. Again, Australia, they're slowing and they're stifling, but rather than maybe really actively, aggressively forcing the turn, they're just trying to all the turn out of the French, and so far the French just staying in rhythm. Now maybe they've got a little bit of a chance to run the gauntlet in behind. Short now Benvenien. Ansalan trying to craft a scoring opportunity, and eventually he finds Lacoste Lefebvre. I agree, this is the travel. I don't think it also did it affect. I mean, there was no one particularly close, but I don't think it was that small a travel either. Just lost his footing and did not reset it in the same place.
Well, I believe the rule is not necessarily about affecting, but gaining an advantage. And so hard to say and unpick what that might mean in that context. But
yeah, you could say, well, he lost his footing, and because he didn't re-establish himself in the right place, he did gain a little bit of advantage there. Ansalan in the short field to Benji Fenrish for the score.
Sort of a like-for-like answer from France against Australia's last goal. Feels like a similar dynamic, you know, they're nice and patient, not afraid to work in small spaces as we see there. That was quite a small space.
I think just all the motioning in the backfield, that cup spaced apart just enough for Płatzakolski actually to find that little bit of a space to burrow into.
Yeah.
In case in point, by the way, if you wondered how can we kind of conceptualize the win conditions for you, our replay monitor just fell off the table. And when I say replay,
off the table, I think is actually correct.
And when I say replay monitor, what I mean is this is actually Milan's old telly, so it is like a proper Like, it's not a small bit of kit, so for it to be picked up and taken away, I think tells you that it is very blustery.
Yeah. And it's already sort of somewhat tenuously held together with some caution tape, so I think...
We don't need to open the kimono too far.
Well, I guess I was going to lead into how ULTI.TV is here committed, contributing their televisions, their time and everything to make sure that they're bringing you all the best coverage. Yeah, we can see a real kind of expert securing of the monitor happening there.
Thank you, KD.
But just make sure that you are supporting ULTI.TV, that you're checking out all the games by becoming a member. Yeah,
more London Invite access will mean that we can buy a lot more duct tape to sellotape our tables down with. Ambitious shot all the way over the top, and Simon Ruel had zero time for it. A break here for France would take us to a cheeky little Galaxy point.
Yeah, that was kind of a comical defense there by Ruel, jumping up and then in the end just giving a little tap in midair.
Like,
a little bit rude, to be honest, but
yeah,
whatever like gets the job done.
Kind of like you're just booping a pet on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, something tender about that defense, but...
Tough position to pick the disc up here, right on that front cone. Centering pass goes to Ruel. Blanc tries to charge underneath, but guarded out. Now still rising. Ruel says, enough of this, let's put it deep. And Roble gets two underneath it. Gan did a good job of suckering him in. Picks up quickly to McGuckin, and now Phillips on the far side. Just lofts it into the path of McGuckin. And McGuckin towards the end zone. Gan, despite the tight coverage, is able to get free, and Australia creating the 8-6 advantage.
They are not messing around. Getting that D, or rather kind of forcing the turnover. Gan was directly moving to the disc, picked it up, got it moving so quickly. We can see here a really lovely throw from Phillips on that far side. Pops it exactly high enough to go over her defender. Comfortably received, and then a great reception by Gan, who's just been tearing up yards on the field. Yeah, and McGuckin really has to throw a bit of spike with the throw here, because, you know, if you don't fizz it in there, then the defender's going to close in time. There's not a huge amount of space to work with, but he found it superbly to Gan. 8-6 half-time lead then, the Crocs here over France World Games. First round of mixed division action at London Invite 2025.
Oh my goodness, that is unbelievable. And created the tip and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're Frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
Shopping Zillow and need a trusted resource for your real estate questions? Want to check on loan pre-approval? Reach out to HomeForce, an all-in-one home buying service engineered for ultimate players, fans, and friends. The HomeForce team provides services in real estate, mortgage financing, insurance, and much more. No pressure, no commitment. Just trusted advice.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're Frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
I'm Stef Pazzo, and I must eat.
sometimes commentator, sometimes food eater.
On my ultimate travels in 2023, I sampled culinary classics from all across Europe,
Oh, wow.
guided by some of your favorite ultimate players.
That's the Dutch hospitality for you right there.
I'll give you an insight into the secret spots that only the locals know of.
Are these the best schnitzels in Vienna?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Go find Stef Pazzo on YouTube. Like and subscribe and follow the European Ultimate Must-Eat series.
Lightspeed VC, a global venture capital firm, proud to sponsor excellence and team cohesion worldwide.
Back in action at London Invite 2025 here, first round of mixed division games, 2 World Games sides with Australia, the Crocs taking on France. The Aussies 1 break up at half, 8-6. Lovely to be back at this 4th edition of the London Invite, the largest ever, full 8-team divisions and 8-team tournaments in each 3 divisions. Being well looked after. We just had a delivery of soft drinks to the booth, which is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we're well taken care of here at Grasshoppers Rugby Club. Clapham Ultimate, 4th year organising this great tournament. It's going from strength to strength. This year we're privileged to have all these World Game squads alongside a number of U24 teams, national teams, and of course some amazing club teams who've made the journey out here. I know there's lots of people watching at home. A little shout out to some of the Australian pals. I know there's a viewing party in Sydney right now, so
Love to
hi
see it.
Kath and team. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're all members of ULTI.TV so you can watch your pals.
Yes, we are. This is the one free game we have for this round, but if you want to watch the other 2 games going on at the same time, if you want access to all 45 live stream games, yeah, that's 45 games over 2 days. That's a lot of Frisbee. Then the way to do that is to click the join button, and you want more London Invite access. For just a few currency a month, you can watch all of the high quality action here at London Invite. The Aussies beginning after the second half. They're going for the deep shot to McGuckin, and he got suckered in too far underneath it. And in the end, the disc sails out the back of the end zone.
Oh, that is a heartbreak. I really like that look. McGuckin had a lot of space. There wasn't sort of a threatening defender right with him. He had the space. He had a few blue shirts chasing in after him, but unfortunately, that is just going to fall foul of the wind. The vision was there, but the execution in these conditions wasn't.
Bonnet, rarely spotted without the sunglasses, picks up. Forget in the backfield as well. Handlers trying to clear out. Going low. Bonnet with the low release. Ava Bonnet with Phillips on her back makes the catch. Flips the hips, squares up, opens up the inside lane. You can see the wind rip away with that one, and it always took it away from Forget.
Stifling defense on the resets there. That was a throw they did not want to make, but were forced.
Can Gann get it off the line here? He can to McGuckin. Egan Griffiths, a riser, well handled by Keys. Fakes down the line. I think he wants to redirect the traffic now, though. Lovely offhands to split the difference into Georgia Egan Griffiths. Been very impressed with the Australian handler movement. Oh, that is filth, John O'Keys.
That was rude.
The high release flick. We've seen sides come a cropper on the wind already today, but just the cheek of the high release flick from Keys into McGuckin for the score. Love, love, love it. You've got to be playing with confidence to throw that.
Yeah, that's a bit of classic Aussie razzle-dazzle. Like, got no business throwing that. We've just been talking about how even like the normal flat passes are tough in these conditions.
High release flick, no bother.
Pull something like that out of the bag is just unbelievable. Watch that again. Yeah, beautiful.
Just using the offhand there, so he's just making sure that he's trying to flatten out the disc before he releases, because often when you go high release there, you end up putting too much OY on it, so using the offhand there to make sure that he's flattening it out and getting the, flattening the release of that, so it's a much more comfortable catch for McGuckin.
Love to see it. And I think like years ago, some of these throws were sort of seen as like gimmicky, you know, they were seen as trick throws, but actually any single throw is relevant and has a use if you've trained it and it's field ready and it's game ready. And I think, yeah, really creative use of the throwing angles and a great reception from McGuckin.
It used to be really poo-pooed in practice. Oh, you're never going to throw that in a game, so why are you bothering practicing it? Well, you're definitely never going to throw it in a game if you don't practice it. So, you know, and also you want to have fun when throwing, right? And so, you know, it's all very well getting in your silver 70s, whatever it is, your basic reps, but sometimes when you're in a jam, you need a little bit of something special. Benvenien. Ansalan now, Valet underneath. Not going to be the option. Ansalan going back to Benvenien. Pazzo getting involved. This containing Australian defense doing a very solid job. Rawley dishes and goes, and they're trying to stretch it down the centre of the field in stride for Benvenien. A little bit isolated though, needs support, and runners coming in behind. Back to Rawley. Benvenien once more. Will he force his way over the precipice? Getting wide with that pivot to lay it up for Pazzo, and the French score on the board for the first time in the second half. Still down a couple at 9-7.
Yeah, a couple of hiccups so far in the second half for France, but that felt smooth, that felt compelling. Australia's defense seems well set up, but yeah, France just managed to get position. That nice cut from the back of the end zone, really creating space.
Because you've got to play the game within the game that's not in the game, and this is going to
talk us through that, Benji.
It sounds nonsense. So A, you're playing the game, but B, they're kind of doing the little bits of the game, like, okay, we're testing this because we want to improve it for the World Games, and then also, well, one of the teams that you know you're going to face at the World Games is your opponent, because these two teams have been drawn in the same pool. So actually, all four teams, I think, in that pool are here in attendance, because you've got these two sides and Canada and Germany. So that's, no, these two sides and Canada and Colombia are the other side, who of course aren't here, but we do have a few of their players on the super team. So you play, okay, well, we want to win this game, we want to try and test things out, but also we know we're playing this opponent, so we can't, do we dare show our full hand? Because, you know, we don't want them to have chance to go over the footage, analyze it, break it down, solve it, while still being aware of the fact that, you know, we've got to still practice it, because if we find a defense that does work against this opponent, we are going to want to play it again in Chengdu.
I think there's still so much time for learning, though. I think teams would be kind of remiss if they're not testing their systems here. And I think that there's no, you know, I can't imagine what they could have invented in the lab that would be so revolutionary.
Less 3D chess, more like, I don't know, 8D Scrabble? I don't know. What a rip away. McGuckin thinks he got it first up against Ruel. There's a lot of man in that matchup. Blimey. Have a look at it again on replay.
Two boys in the penthouse apartment. They're both up in the air.
I don't know if McGuckin ever truly had that.
Watching that again, nice and slow. That looks like a clean D. Hard to say what it felt like for McGuckin.
And they are going to say it's a French D. We had some players look over the replay. They came and agreed, but actually in the end they decided, you know what, fair play. Really spirited, pointed and, yeah, useful discussions. There's a foul called in the centre.
Yeah, unfortunate. Quite a lot of contact here, but I think that disc was over their heads, but that is a real backpack.
Yeah, it's Fenrish who's trying to get there, and yeah, I think in his eagerness to get there, does come through, but would Fenrish have had it? Is the pointed question here.
Yeah, from my perspective, that looks like that's going over them, and he's already sort of in the air, and there's still a good foot between his hand and the disc. But who's to say how high he could have got up if he didn't have a little Australian backpack on his back?
Something to note, by the way, for France is, you know, they've got not just the 14 at the World Games, but their alternates as well here. Someone we haven't seen take the field for them is, I don't think we've seen Zoe Forget play yet this game. He's got a lot of taping on her left knee, and I wonder if that's just something that they're, again, trying to manage for the big show in Chengdu.
Yeah.
Which, certainly understandable.
Australia also here with their full squad, making sure that even the alternatives are like well glued into the systems.
Looking for the reset there, never reaches Bonnet. French D-line again struggling to hit on their opportunities. Australia continuing to utilise the width and just about kept it up for the score in the end.
Yeah, Prentice having to kind of do a little bit of a flourish to come down with that. Great calm work. There were some options coming up in the end zone, but you can see the Rats Prentice with the disc now. So in for the reception.
I think Carr maybe.
Yeah, Olivia Carr coming down with it. You know, and it's tough because it's like the catch itself is not that difficult, but with the gusts under pressure.
And when you're off balance as well, that's always the tricky bit, because it's not that far away, but if you don't have that kind of constant solid plane for the throw and your hands are varying in height, sometimes it's very easy to not get them over one another if you go for the clap catch, or the little gusts where if you don't go for the clap catch there, it only needs to be a few millimeters either way and it thunks off the fingers or the thumb.
But I do think like a lot of these guys, I mean all of these guys I would imagine, have that muscle memory of you've caught so many times,
catch after
whether
catch
it's
after
the
catch.
1 million trainings you've been at, whether it's the throwing sessions, whether it's the trials, your club, you're playing for your country, all of that. Like you've caught, I wouldn't even care to guess how many discs in your life. And so like even when it's not quite right, your body knows how to make those adjustments, and for these guys a lot of it will come quite naturally.
Also, apropos of nothing, I just want to compliment Sam McGuckin's lovely baby blue nails.
Gorgeous.
And match your jumper.
We're all serving looks out here.
Ansalan to pick up just beyond midfield. Stanguanek now. Lachi providing an end zone option. France having to go short, this close to the end zone. The deep game not so viable. Dalal slashing from behind. Lachi back to Ansalan. Oh, well, all sorts of traffic in that front corner. Players out on the floor. Lisson Borno was able to stick the catch.
Big pressure for Patterson.
A lot of bodies there, so couldn't quite tell you exactly what went on. Ansalan trying to power his way up line. Oh, the throw from Borno got the wrong edge too early. Gan stops the roll and from the floor finds Keys. Fakes the backhand. He's going to rip the flick down the centre of the field. Pigeon's a field stretcher. Gets a hand underneath and keeps it alive. Now we are going back to Pigeon for the Australian break. It feels like that's what France haven't had after the turn, is they've not had the ability to string together a long downfield possession. But Australia that time, on the punt, got Pigeon underneath it. She loves going deep, and then afterwards happy to bounce it off to Ia and then collect the score into the end zone, and Australia beginning to escape away into the distance.
That was a tasty play. That throw is exactly what we've been missing. So much force on it. You can see that absolutely dies a death as it gets down there, but because of the timing, it was perfect. Already there to receive it, and then teammates streaming in to make sure there's a quick 1-2 and that score is secured before France can really even get on the defense, before they know what's happening.
I mean, France have generated more than their fair share of opportunities, but with the exception of the one that Eva Borno picked up on the end zone line, it feels like they've not really got further than midfield with them.
Yeah, and I think there's something like to be said for just kind of the intangible vibes of that the teams are giving out right now, and I think Australia just really, it feels peak, it feels confident, it feels you know, like there are hiccups that are happening and no one's too worried about it, just getting on with it. And I think Gan is really bringing a lot of that energy with, as soon as they're getting a turn, he is picking it up and getting it moving, you know, throughout this game. That sort of energy, that sort of quick fire and keeping everything moving is so effective at making momentum and like demanding momentum for your own side. France looking great, but perhaps for me, the vibes just aren't quite as strong. You know, they're making mistakes and it feels like they're just feeling it that little bit more.
I think the other thing as well is that Australia are playing formidable defense when they do surrender it offensively. So France having to go the full length of the central zone here in the short space valet. And now they're going wide, but still in their own end zone. This containing zone has really stifled the French momentum. Benvenien opening it up, wrenching it deep. This is going to go towards this sideline and way out of the sideline. Not the best shot from Benvenien. Picked up and ripped immediately towards the end zone. Superbly tracked. It's all Australia at the moment. 12-7.
Just a better read on it from Ian Griffiths. Looking at those different examples we've just seen from each side of the long game, it feels like Australia are exploiting opportunities. They're seeing good options that they're hitting. France looked just a bit under pressure in that zone. They just wanted to get the disc downfield, and so, you know, even just the execution, it feels like Australia are really coming into those options with real kind of positivity and intention. Whereas for France, it does feel, even if it's not their last-ditch effort, that's the energy that it's being brought to when it's in response to how crushing the Australian defense is in that under area.
I mean, it was a textbook read on the end of that deep shot from Andrews there by Dorothy Lee, in that she suckers valet into going too far underneath it. But we've seen a number of players already this weekend try and go for that and actually leave themselves with too much work to do afterwards. By that time, she still had the speed and the read to be able to chase it down with valet left a shadow.
Yeah, playing for position on those long shots, trying to hold the other player out, but still managing to have enough space to make the play is a really fine line to balance. Yeah, we've seen it quite a few times so far today. People trying to leave just enough space and leaving way too much and not being able to get there as the disc perhaps trails away or what have you. But we're seeing some elite reads here. And again, it's that sort of playing in the conditions, understanding, having that depth of knowledge of how the disc is going to move.
So a rolling pull on Salan. Oh, Benvenien does get it in his clutches. Lachie now creating separation on the under. Phillips trying to threaten those release points. The leading pass looking for Płatsikowski. Foul called.
The cutting from Płatsikowski there, just phenomenal. Really kind of textbook creating that space. You can see this defense here was peeling off from the other side of the field. I think Gan was his actual defender who's left without a play, and here two big bids, some contact, hard to say.
Yeah, tried to lead him into the space, but yeah, put him very close to the sideline and did not give Płatsikowski room to work with at all, really.
We'll have another look at that just to see.
I don't know how much contact there is between the two of them.
I mean, Płatsikowski is bidding ever so slightly afterwards. So in terms of who's initiating contact, it's really hard to say. You know, you've got someone coming in at a different angle.
They're gonna retract it, and I think this is fair. Australia then putting the hammer down. Beautiful break down the line. Phillips with the holster, which I like. Discretion is the better part of valor, of course. McGuckin to Phillips. Again, crafting it down the sideline to Gan. This Australian offense looking fine-tuned. Gan getting expansive. It's tipped. It's still alive, but not for long. The sideline wins. Boy, did they need that block. Without it, it felt like game over. But they've given themselves a sniff.
Yeah, as that throw went out, I really thought that was, like, I loved that throw. I loved the look. It was aggressive, but it looked to be really well executed. But I guess the timing with the cut was just slightly off. You had a static receiver, and defense was given plenty of time just to run through and get a hand to it. No second play to be made, and France have an opportunity.
In and out of the gut of Stanguinek.
Squandered.
Pressure from McGuckin proves enough. Gan to pick up once more. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes a bit more conservative. Phillips, couple of steps out. Trying to go wide once more. There's a player wide open. All he has to do is tap that foot behind the line. That is exactly what he does. And Australia in the second half. I mean, bear in mind it was 8-6 at half. That's a 5-1 run after the interval for the Crocs.
A dominant showing. France not looking like they're, slouching around on the field, putting in a good effort, but there's just something about the way the Crocs are connecting.
It feels like they're a bit further along, to be honest, in terms of building up towards the World Games. Like, there's more chemistry between the players. They've got a much clearer idea of what they want to do than the French do. Feels like they're still figuring some things out.
Yeah, and they're showing us like real kind of variations of what they're able to do. We've seen some excellent person defense. We've seen a couple zone looks from them. We've seen that, and we've seen them move between those two things really well. Like a couple of times they've been playing zone for maybe 5 passes, melting straight into person, and it's really smooth and efficient and effective. And it's just meant that throughout this game they've managed to keep the pressure so high on the French offensive side, which is just creating all of these opportunities for them, and then the offense just coming through absolutely clutch time after time, whether it's those big passes, whether it's that small movement, quick in little spaces. Really, really dynamic looks from the Australian team across offense and defense.
So Andrews with the disc in hand to pull. So that'll tell you the gender ratio: 4 male, 3 female matching players. Going with a big roll curving backhand that lands on the end zone line before Forget fields. Oh, the wind really whipping up again now and trying to fly through to get the block. That one catches Ben Venyen, foul called and accepted.
Kyle O storming down the field after that pull, clearly bringing all the beans, but slightly overdone on that, causing some contact. I mean, that would have been the play of the day, but got to make sure you're doing it safely.
Yeah, sometimes you need to know when not to go. Enzo Forget to Sullivan Roblet. Sits it out into space for Bonnet. Roblet now. Andrews making himself big on the force. Now it feels like there is a bit more tempo about the offense this time. Bonnet with the rip into the wind. Ben Venyen just too far. They haven't got the measurement right on the deep shots.
Yeah, and I wonder what the mentality of the team was coming into this, whether it was, like we keep trying things until we've dialed it in, or, at some point, I don't know how the scoreline of this game is going to really impact France. I don't know how much you want to kind of also be practicing to make those adjustments. And at the World Games, they're certainly going to have games where they're going to need to really tighten things up and, less creative, more clinical.
Oh, I would be very surprised if they played in the same manner at the World Games, but even so, if you're not going to play this way at the World Games, you need to work out, how much are we gaining from playing like this at this moment in time?
Well, if it's an option they want to dial in, then now's the time to practice it. You're not going to get to the World Games without having things ready to go.
Andrews. I wonder if at some point they feel the pressure and try and play the field position game a bit more. Ladamatos. Going back to O. Playing the 2-player game at the moment. Andrews, now there's a deep shot that's available. They're putting it, you could see the wind really pick that up and take it, and it fell into the hands right at the end of the play there of James Bray, but he couldn't secure it after he did so well to track the disc.
Oh, he's lamenting that moment. Read it perfectly. That bladed up and came down so aggressively. It really took a lot of width in that downward arc. Bray reading that really well, getting right underneath it, but it is so tough. It was coming in so fast.
Benveyen and Bonnet in the backfield, with Australian defenders buzzing around the bees. Olivier, I feel like I haven't seen too much of her in this game either. Benveyen is going to rip it once more on a high stall. This is a much better huck. Flatter with more sit on it. Catches Forget in stride, and Forget lays that one to the end zone for Robley for the score. France, after a severe run of breaks, finally back on the board.
Definitely a necessary boost for the morale of the French side. It's been a bit of a harrowing second half for them. Lots of, I mean, that was a perfectly executed deep throw. We haven't seen that really from the side so far. And then a really lovely continuation with the right way. We've seen a couple nice passes that get you the yards and then full foul on the secondary throw, but France doing really well just to keep their cool on that.
Hello to everyone watching. Of course, this is our free live stream game this round, but if you want access to all 45 of our live streams this weekend at London Invite, including those that we've already had, then the way to do that is to click the join button for more London Invite access for the equivalent of €10 a month. It's £9 UK pound sterling. You can watch all of the games from this weekend, and I imagine that this will be being used for a little bit of scouting and prep works. Someone that we do expect to see at the World Games, although they are not here this weekend because I think they're just suffering a little bit with illness, is Paul Herkins. Will be suiting up for Germany. Couldn't make the trip over this weekend, but I see he's in the YouTube chat doing a little bit of scouting and reconnaissance. See, we've got eagle eyes as well, but we appreciate all your support and all your feedback, and honestly, it's a real privilege to be able to bring you the best teams in the world in the summer London sun. Gan steps out, the big backhand deep. Has he got the measure of it? Well stuck catch there. Weir, who I've been very impressed with in action so far this weekend, looking towards the end zone and climbing the ladder and boxing out that time Mark McClay. Whoever is required to make the play for the Australians, they're providing.
Kai Weir has just been like all over the field in the best of ways, like behind the disc, absolute powerhouse, downfield, just tearing it up, creating great options, throwing dimes. Really so impressed with their play. Gorgeous, love to see it.
Yeah,
see that separation.
Yep, sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, just sort of see that separation that was set up so well. Really beautiful huck. And received under pressure, you know, had to hold position. And again, just waiting that one out really nicely. Trusting the receiver. Lots of pressure from France, but Australia looking unbothered.
Yeah, Weir with plenty of mix experience. Was part of the mixed U24s in Heidelberg in 2019. Was due to do it again in 2021 in Limerick before, of course, COVID took that away, and then was part of Brisbane Lunchbox's run to the bronze medal at WCC in Cincinnati in 2022.
Yeah, quite the accolades already under her belt. But yeah, you don't get onto a World Games squad by being a slouch, so not surprised to hear
What you're saying is that my time might not come.
Well, we never say never, but
I mean, GB would have to qualify.
Yeah, well, certainly not this time round.
No, the next one is in Germany, and Germany, of course, one of the teams that made it on ranking this time. So, you know, if you're one of those teams who are left just outside, maybe you fancy your chances next go round in 4 years' time. France then, it is going to be Australia's game, but they do have to finish this point where the cap went on, and it will be the last point regardless. So both sides want it to finish it on a high. Kwiatkowski playing a little bit of small ball in the backfield with Valet. Really struggled to decode the Australian zone looks. Kwiatkowski shooting down the sideline. There's an out call, although the deep shot turned over regardless.
There's a question here about whether
Yeah, I'm not sure Pazzo quite appreciated how tight to the sideline he was.
Yeah, from this perspective, it looked to me like he was in when he caught it, but there were several steps afterwards. So I wondered if that was going to be actually a travel call. But I think, given the response of the reaction of the sideline, just sort of a bit of oohing and ahhing on field.
I think in the end they've decided.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's very close,
that
isn't
is
it?
close.
Well, we're not sure, but they just turned over anyway, so we'll just retract it and let the turnover stand in the end zone.
Best not to waste too much time debating it.
No time like the present.
Yeah, when you've already secured the turn.
Keys brings it from the front of the end zone. Not seeing too much separation downfield. Swings instead. Foreman. Every inch Australian, you can see the shock of blonde hair poking out behind the cap. Short field turn though will give for France the opportunity to at least finish on a high. They do punch it in for that final score. It'll bring the score to 14-9, but it will be an Australian win. And I was very impressed with the Crocs, especially in the second half when they looked dialed in, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. It did feel like they sort of started out and it felt like it was going to be quite a tight game. But there was just something that the Crocs brought that just meant that they had that edge, they had that confidence. I mean, we see that last point there, just a mishap, a turnover, giving France the opportunity to close out the game with a score, but it really was the Crocs being dominant. That was the story of the game, and kind of going and building from strength to even greater strength as we went through that. So really overall a positive experience with both sides, I'm sure. Disappointing to not take the win for France, but you know, so many learning points, and particularly understanding that some of these repressive person defenses, some of these zones are going to be really tricky for them, and it gives them the time and the space to try and come up with some solutions ahead of the main event.
Yeah, whether they'll get a game like this at the World Games remains to be seen, because of course we can't predict the weather this far out. But regardless, you've got to play in the World Games, whatever the weather, you will have to play in it. So sometimes a blustery game like this doesn't lead to the best ultimate, but it's important to get those tests in advance. Thanks for watching then our coverage of London Invite. This is your free live streamed game for the round. We go back into the women's division for the second time today in the next round of games, and you have your pick of the Stingrays, the Aussie women's U24 up against Spice. Bristol versus Smog, and Yaka versus Dublin Gravity. Bristol versus Smog is your free game of the round, but if you want access to the other two and all of our live stream games this weekend, you know what to do. Click the join button, or if you don't see it, there's 3 little dots in the corner, and you want the option for more London Invite access, and that'll give you all 45 live streamed games this weekend. Thanks so much for watching here at London Invite. For our ULTI.TV crew, Rachel Douglas alongside me, Benji Reese. The final score here was Australia 14, France 9. We'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Thanks.
ULTI.TV.